Hello, and welcome aboard to this episode of the We Are Reading One Piece podcast. This is a podcast dedicated to following the entire story of One Piece from beginning to end as we focus on one volume each episode. We keep the discussion spoiler free for new fans of the series, so this is a perfect place to follow along, whether you're new to the series or just want to revisit the world of One Piece with us. This week, we will be covering Volume 7, The Crab Geezer, which covers chapters 54 through 62. My name is Joel, and I'll be your host. And joining me today, we have Sean.
This is Sean.
And we have Evan.
Hey, everyone. Welcome aboard.
All right. So, let's get a quick recap for the last volume for where we left off. So, Krieg had arrived at the Baratie on the brink of starvation. Sanji and Zeph agreed to feed Krieg and his crew, but Krieg turned on them the moment he regained his strength, demanding to take the Baratie for himself. Nami had stolen the Going Merry, but before Luffy's crew could set out after her, the world's greatest swordsman arrived to finish Krieg off. Seizing this opportunity to prove himself, Zoro challenged Mihawk, though he quickly learned that he was severely outmatched. Mihawk admired Zoro's spirit and decided to spare him. Zoro vowed to Luffy that he would never lose again. Luffy sends his crew to chase after Nami, while he stays behind to take care of Krieg and recruit Sanji to be their cook. All right, let's get going with the cover story. So we have a new part for Buggy's crew after the battle, part 14, Pirate Alliance. Buggy agrees to team up with the mysterious woman as they celebrate over a meal. So not too much progression there.
Still have no idea who this person is.
Yeah, so we know that they have officially formed an alliance, so maybe we'll see how that plays out.
Perhaps
but that's a story for another time.
I love how Buggy is standing on that chair, not sitting. So short.
It's like be eye level. Okay. Do you have something, Sean?
No, because I know the answer. But do you think he'll ever get his torso back? Like somehow.
I think this is Buggy's new life.
Oh darn! Wait, where's all that food going? It's going right to his feet. Then. All right, let's keep going.
Okay, chapter 54, Pearl. The Mackerel 1 crashes into the Baratie after Sanji managed to kick it away. Patty and Carne are insulted that Sanji was so reckless with their lives as they exit the crashed paddle boat. Meanwhile, the Krieg pirates have been defeating the fighting cooks. Patty and Carne step up to defend the restaurant that they've come to know as their home. Just when it seems that they're gaining the upper hand, Krieg's second unit commander Pearl swims up and easily knocks the cooks down. One of Krieg's men tries to take Patty's knife, but Sanji intervenes and kicks him into a group of the pirates into Pearl, who is unfazed thanks to his heavy armor. Another group tries to attack Sanji, but he uses a series of kicks to take them all out. Pearl notes that Sanji is only using kicks, which explains that a cook's hands are his life, so he only uses his feet to fight, which is how he'll beat Pearl. Pearl boasts that he is invincible and hasn't lost a single fight, all without bleeding once. He's been keeping track. Luffy takes his eyes off of Krieg during their fight, which allows Krieg to send Luffy flying. Fortunately for Krieg, Luffy gets knocked into the back of Pearl's head, causing him to smash his nose on his own shield. Looks like Pearl's bloodless battle streak has been broken. All right, any thoughts on this one?
I remember Pearl being one of my favorite villains as a kid. Well, when I was first read this, I don't know why in retrospect as much, but he's a very distinctive appearance. Like his torso is like the size of like an entire person apparently, because like he has a giant shield thing. And he's just so weird. He's just such a weirdo. Like he comes out of nowhere. Like there's no setup to this. It's just like, and this guy swims up. Also, how did he swim wearing that? Like it's like hard wrought steel, right, or something. Like how does he not sink? Like
he's invincible.
He's invincible and unsinkable, apparently.
Unsinkable?
Yeah, he's just like a very weird dude, and I kind of like. But he's also he was one of my first instances of like, because he gets his fist things covered in blood, and he's just extremely violent. And the concept of this weirdo just beating people to just bloody wounds is just like, it was such a weird thing, and it just stuck with me as a kid. I was like, even though in retrospect he's not as huge a deal as I thought, he's kind of just like he shows up for a couple chapters, but we'll get there.
Yeah, but that is a point though, because like you said, he shows up like in armor. He doesn't really have any like blades or like guns or any real weapons. So his only form of attacking is like bludgeoning, which is pretty brutal.
Yeah.
Pretty brutal.
Hey, what about you, Evan? How do you feel about Pearl?
So, well, first of all, I haven't read One Piece in a few weeks because of the holidays. So opening this book and immediately reading The Crap Geezer brought me right back. Oda brought me right back into the world immediately. But yeah, that was quite a reveal. Kind of like Sean was saying, I don't know how this person became a human shield. I mean, in this shot, he's got like 5 guys on his chest, and they're all able to fit in that bullseye.
Somehow.
But we start to see Sanji's fighting style at its finest. There's some amazing cells in here of Sanji kicking ass. Yeah, just like really dynamic fighting scenes. I enjoyed it. Right, threw us right back into the action.
Yeah, and I like Sanji's explanation for his fighting style. Like beyond just like having him be like, some kind of fighter or something. It's like, well, because he's a cook, he doesn't want to hurt his hands because that's how he does the cooking.
Right.
So his feet are kind of more like able to take a beating for him, so he can keep cooking. So yeah, I just like the explanation for why he uses so many kicks for his fighting, and like he doesn't use his hands for any reason for fighting.
So practical. And we know that Zeph has taught him these techniques at this point. I think we found that out at the end of the last volume.
Which makes sense because, Reju Zeph, that was his famous technique. He kind of passed it down to Sanji along with the cooking. So it's kind of like, something to pass down with the fighting cook style.
What a cool style.
Well, it's
you got pirate chefs
pretty great style.
Fighting cooks.
But yeah, I'm actually, to be honest, I'm not really a big fan of Pearl. He just never really appealed to me too much. I don't think he's the most interesting One Piece villain. Like he does have like a weird design. But yeah, he just never really jumped out at me as like a really fun villain.
Yeah, I just like how he has no setup, right? Unless I'm mistaken, like they never mention, and we have a crew of invincible badasses, Geen and Pearl. Like they never say anything like that earlier. Krieg never threatens this guy is going to show up. Geen never mentions him at all. He just shows up out of the water, and you don't see a shadow or silhouette of him or anything. I don't think he just shows up.
I mean, I'm okay with that.
I'm okay with it. It's just funny to me.
They don't really introduce like a lot of the Greek pirates by name, so that's a very small few, and that's fine. I actually kind of like that he kind of comes out of nowhere. Like where was he? Was he just kind of swimming around the ocean waiting for his the right moment? Be like, oh, this is the perfect time to make my entrance. Like, I don't know where he's been. He's kind of like, he almost kind of looks like a turtle, like the shell, and he kind of came from the water like that.
Yeah, that is kind of, there's a slight sea crustacean-esque element to him. But besides Pearl, there's just it is cool seeing Patty and Carne kick ass, even if only momentarily. That was nice, showing that they're a step above the rest of the cooks there in terms of fighting ability. And Sanji really just nailing home that like chef culture thing shining through. It was really cool. Yeah, good chapter. I love that long kick panel of him kicking that one pirate right in the face that tries to take the knife.
So good.
A+ framing. Thwack.
Yeah, I do like how Sanji defends the knife too, because he understands because he respects like the cook life, and what it means to be a cook. So to him, like, you don't take like a cook's tools like that. So even though it's Patty, like he's like, I'm not going to disrespect the cook that way.
Also,
Although-
Invincible Pearl's bloody nose is completely random. Like Luffy just comes flying out of nowhere and just like blindsides him. That was so funny. And Luffy's like, "Oh, thank God it didn't land in the water."
Yeah. And it's like because Krieg knocked him over there, so Krieg kind of like put them in that position.
Yeah.
Got lucky. Or unlucky.
Yeah. Yeah, and Sanji was a little callous with the way he was treating Patty and Carne with like they could have died. And he was just kind of like, whatever.
What can you do?
We tried
Look, I mean,
to,
I'll
like,
defend
yeah.
I'll defend your honor, but it doesn't mean I'm gonna, defend your life necessarily.
I did want to also mention the SBS. It's just like a little note here for Oda has a response to a continuity error from chapter 1, where like the bar's doors were fixed from like one panel to the next. So he introduces like the concept of this character, Mr. Minatomo. He's basically just like a carpenter
Oh, wow.
who has to fix something immediately. So he just kind of comes out of nowhere and fixes it.
It's no joke, you rotten jerk. And stop looking at me. Nice.
Okay, any other comments before we move on?
Let's see how far this pearl can fly or be in flame. I don't know. We'll see.
Okay. Moving on to Buggy's crew after the battle, part 15. Oh, Captain, you're in our hearts. Moji, Richie, and Kabaji hold a funeral with the Buggy Pirates over the remaining parts of their captain.
There you go, Sean. There's your
Found
torso.
Yep. There's your
Right
answer.
there, tied in a bundle.
Tied in a bundle.
And Buggy's remains.
Roots of a shrine.
A Buggy bundle.
A buggy body bundle.
Look, maybe he can get him back. We'll see.
Well, that's promising. At least they're not like in the ocean somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice that they're holding a funeral for their supposedly dead captain.
They may be jerks, but yeah, there's still even you think even Kabaji, yeah, surprising, and the lion of whose name I forgot.
Yeah, Richie. Yeah,
Richie. Good old Richie.
They got a nice picture of Buggy too. They did him justice. So
yeah.
Moving on to chapter 55, Jungle Blood. Pearl sees the blood coming from his nose and begins to panic. His crew tries to calm him down to no avail. Pearl begins to combust as a defense mechanism he learned as a child in order to survive life in the jungle. He starts swinging at Sanji and Luffy while catching the deck on fire. Sanji jumps over the ring of fire and kicks Pearl in the face. You can't be a cook if you're afraid of fire, after all. Pearl begins to escalate even further, now shooting pearls of fire all over. Zeph is able to blow out the flames with the wind of his kick, causing the pearls to fall harmlessly. Not ready to give up on the ship, Krieg throws a giant ball and chain in an attempt to crash the fin before Pearl's fire can reach the rest of the ship, but Luffy is able to launch it back with a Gum Gum Bazooka. This knocks the mast over, causing it to topple right on Pearl's head. The fight is interrupted as Geen pulls a gun on Zeph, threatening to shoot the chef.
No, Geen!
Geen, why?
Damn you!
Showing its true colors.
John,
your favorite character?
He's one of my favorites.
What the heck?
Look, we all have our flaws. Some of us are picky eaters. Some of us are vicious, bloodthirsty pirates. Like, what can you do? Like,
you gotta take the good with the bad.
All right. So in this chapter, we get a little backstory of Pearl, who, as a kid, taught himself how to engulf himself in flames as a defense mechanism. Like, what?
Yeah.
Wow.
This is like kind of like one of those things you like can't really think about too hard.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you think there's some kind of friction thing with the rubbing the metal, but I don't think that even works. And it's just
No.
like he just makes fire, I
Human
guess.
fireball. Learn skill.
Yeah, it's just
I feel like
something
you're
you can
maybe
do.
putting more thought into it than Oda himself did.
I mean, it's a great effect. I mean, this character who's a little lackluster on fire is much cooler. So I'll give him that. But I don't know. I don't know how you learn how to do that.
Again, just kind of stressing that not every ability is going to be because of a devil fruit. So some people can just naturally light on fire.
Fair enough. I guess that's not too out of place in this world. There are some serious fantasy elements going on.
But I do like how like the entire crew starts freaking out because he just turns on fire and they're all like, trying to calm him down because they know it's coming. He's just kind of out of control and he's just kind of shooting fireballs everywhere.
Yeah.
And now like the ship's gonna catch on fire and yeah, it's just kind of like getting a little out of hand. But Pearl's just kind of focused on Pearl doing what Pearl does, and yeah, Pearl's just upset.
Pearl's like, this isn't about them. This is about me burning everything to pieces.
It's my reputation.
And then Zeph steps in. It's like, all right, Zeph still got it. And then he's taken hostage.
That kick panel, that hat is so tall.
Yes.
Poking through the page. Like
so good.
Yeah, that's a great page. Yeah, so we have a little bit more of like Sanji fighting Pearl, not really making too much of a dent. And you're getting some kicks in. But yeah, it doesn't seem like too much progress is being made on that front.
He absolutely squished Pearl with that whole mess up thing. Is pretty good. But yeah, then immediately Gin. Damn it, Gin! Gin.
Come on, Gin. I thought you turned a corner.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, but it seems like Krieg is doing the most damage to Pearl out of anybody.
Yeah, I don't know if that's like a running theme with those two, but sure is now.
I do like this panel with like Pearl kind of getting squished. I don't know if it'll come through in the webcam. Let me see. Can I get it? Oh, there we go. Yeah, it doesn't really come in too well, but yeah.
No neck. It's totally squished.
But yeah, definitely like the twist here with Gin. I know we're just kind of joking about it, but I do like how Gin kind of is showing that he is a pirate after all, and he's part of this crew for a reason. Because like we've seen like kind of the good side of Gin and how he appreciates what Sanji did for him, but he still has a captain to serve, and yeah, he's still a bloodthirsty pirate. Even though we haven't really seen so much of it, now we're actually getting more of that side of him.
And he breaks off Zeph's peg leg.
Ooh, yeah.
So mean. This guy. My notes for this chapter were literally Gin, ! No. Because he became such a likable character, and then this happened.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, why?
Again, remind you which crew he's on.
We'll give him time.
Yeah, I feel like there's not too much to talk about in this chapter. A lot of it's more like action oriented.
Yeah, it's a good fight, good setup for the next fight, and a ending on a shock ending. And I say we keep going. Okay.
So just real quick with the SBS. Yeah, so we just a little note. We have confirmation that Sanju's age is 19, so he's the same age as Zoro. Okay, yeah, just a little sidebar.
Nice.
This question corner has been really good. Like this whole book, I thought was really good. Like Oda's like very blunt answers to things, or very practical answers to just outlandish questions.
Or he'll just like have like the most ridiculous, outlandish like
yeah.
So
so good.
He goes both ways with the answers.
Yeah. You feel like he's put some of those questions in just because they're so ridiculous, and then hardly even gives an answer. It's just like you got to see what this person submitted.
Chapter 56. I refuse. Geen breaks off Zeph's peg leg and offers to let Zeph go if Sanji agrees to get off the ship. Sanji refuses. He mocks Zeph for being helpless and tells Geen to aim the gun at him instead. Pearl is back up and uses this opportunity to smash Sanji's head with his shield, launching him into the wall. Geen pleads for Sanji to just go, but Sanji says the ship is Zeph's pride and joy, so he can't give it up. He won't let anything else be taken from Zeph. Once again, Pearl attacks Sanji while his guard is down, smashing Sanji's head between both of his shields this time. Pearl isn't letting up, as he jumps in the air and smashes down Sanji. The other cooks are still hung up on what Sanji said about taking something from Zeph. Back when Sanji was a child, he worked as an apprentice cook on the passenger ship called the Orbit. The other cooks mocked him for believing in the All Blue, a legendary part of the ocean that contains the fish from all of the other 4 blues. The other cooks helped themselves to the leftovers that the customers didn't eat, but Sanji would throw the food out that looked bad. The other cook explained that you never know when something will happen at sea, so it's best not to waste food. Suddenly, the ship was boarded by a pirate crew led by Red Shoe Zeph, captain of the pirate cooks.
Zeph's looking so young.
Look at him and all that hair.
Yeah, the bow ties and the mustache.
Yep.
What a look.
So yeah, this is another whole arc, this whole flashback arc is something that stuck with me when I was a kid and really got me into this like really hooked me onto where I was reading in the series, and it's just really, really well done, as we'll say. I love the whole thing of him in the back of with all the cooks and like, oh, you guys, just who gives a shit about this leftover food? And like, you don't get it, kid, but you will.
Foreshadowing.
Yeah, this is set up really nicely, and like Sean was just saying, I really do enjoy Sanji's flashback, and it's definitely one of the highlights of the arc for me as well. Especially because we've been getting little like seeds planted throughout. We haven't really known the history between Sanji and Zeph and what their deal was, or why Sanji's the way that he is, or whatnot. But getting the flashback to give some of those answers, I think it's a very satisfying way, and we'll get into the details of it. But yeah, the Sanji's flashback is one of my favorites.
I agree. Back to the fight scene that happened just before that. When Pearl does the cymbal smash, or
it is so
Pearl's
brutal.
That one is rough. Yeah,
brutal, but also like I feel like I saw that coming. Him looking like one of those monkeys with the cymbals and doing that like monkey cymbal smash. I was like, I saw this. I knew this was gonna happen. But yeah, brutal.
Yeah, that one looks like it hurt bad. And
any other series. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
In any other series, Sanji is dead. Like his esophagus is crushed. His entire he's so that obviously. But I'm talking about the one where he gets the like in between that. It was just like, okay, he's done.
Yeah.
That's just at that point. It's just like, okay, we're win-mooring at this point.
Sanji's getting a little wrecked here.
Just a bit.
Yeah, so things are definitely taking a dire turn. Zeph's on his last leg. Sanji's getting a little beat up here. Pearl's kind of regaining his confidence, and everything's on fire. So not looking so good right now. So it's a perfect time to get away from that action and go into telling a flashback.
Yeah.
Apparently this is being told in real time because everybody reacts to the story. So
apparently they just Sanji's bleeding on the floor. They all explain everything.
It's really important for my character development. I got to tell you guys right now.
I got to explain.
We do get Sanji's dream, which is to find the All Blue.
Tasty, tasty.
Suspension of the Diablo.
which that'll come back up shortly as well. But yeah, so it's gonna have like the fish from all the different blues in one part of the sea. So people
Convenient.
don't believe it's a real thing; they think it's a foolish dream. But Sanji's insistent that he believes it's real. So sounds like somebody else we might know. But yeah, just a little similar parallel. But Sanji's just an apprentice on the ship. So he had a passion for cooking pretty early on, but we don't see the same habits that he has now or his same mindset about food.
Something changed. Definitely something changed. The Sanji back here probably wouldn't have cared about the knife. He wouldn't have cared about any of the stuff like his. This is the seed of his growth into like being really a chef. Like he was a cabin boy basically back here. But this is whatever's happens next is what really seals the deal, I think.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on this chapter?
I had one thought on Sanji's resolve. I feel like for me, it didn't quite land the first time through. Like the first time reading this, him saying like, I took his strength, I took his dreams, and I'll never let anything else be taken from him. Like that kind of didn't land for me. Like it, not to spoil, but it does land for me later on in this volume. But early on, I was kind of like a little confused at his motive there. I don't know.
I think you are
for some reason.
I think you are supposed to kind of like have that like well, why?
Right.
Why does he care so much? Because we don't have the full context. So we know that we don't have the full story. So going into it now, we get more backstory and more insight as to why Sanji feels this way.
Yeah, totally. It felt like in that moment he should like I've taken his strength, I took his dreams, like I want to help him fulfill his dream because we have the same dream. Like I feel like that's what should have been said there, but instead it was like I'll never let anything else be taken from him, which kind of put like a negative twist on him taking strength and dreams from him. I don't know. Didn't quite land for me, but it does land later on in this volume.
Yeah, I think
Totally.
that's fine.
It felt a little premature, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, for the reader, you don't have the full context, but Sanji
right
has a very specific reason for feeling this way. So on that note, let's get more of that insight.
Yep.
Okay, and before we get on to the next chapter, we have the next part of the cover story, Buggy's Crew After the Battle, Part 16, Duel to Decide the Next Captain. Kabuji and Moji battle to decide who should take over as captain of the Buggy Pirates.
We
So
should have to see this
pretty
actual
epic battle. And yeah, everybody's kind of cheering them on. Even Richie's kind of cheering them on, cheering on Moji. But like, all right, we've mourned our captain. Let's fight to decide who's the new captain. Somebody's got to lead this crew.
Right at the gravesite too. There wasn't like a second location for the battle.
Oh yeah,
they
right.
Mourned their fallen leader and then fought right on the grave.
That's how they honor him.
I mean, yeah, I think he'd want it that way.
Yeah,
yeah, that's probably true. Meanwhile, he's living it up, having drinks with some mysterious woman on a boat.
Yeah, right. So, like, do you think they keep the name like the Buggy Pirates, or do they rename it?
I feel like these with the two captains, like how stylized they are, they'd have to change it.
Like the Beast Tamer Pirates or the Acrobat Pirates.
Right.
That's real what they're fighting for is the name.
Yeah.
They want to take control and bring it in one direction or the other. Okay. Chapter 57. If you have a dream. Having just returned from the Grand Line, Zeph orders his crew to take all the valuables from the passenger ship. A storm starts to gather as the pirates raid the ship. Zeph notices one of his pirates had taken a bag of food. This is a big no-no for Zeph, so he kicks his crew member to teach him a lesson not to touch other people's food. Sanji has made his way to the deck and threatens to kill the pirates with a pair of kitchen knives. Zeph kicks away the young boy, but he isn't ready to die yet, as he still needs to find the All Blue. The pirates start laughing at Sanji's ridiculous dream. All except Zeph. The storm is getting worse, so the pirates prepare to leave, but Sanji is swept overboard by a giant wave. Inexplicably, Zeph jumps in after the boy as the giant wave takes over both ships. Sanji wakes up to see he's on a giant rock with Zeph, who explains that they're stranded here with no way to get food. No fruits, animals, and the cliff is too high to fish or go down. Zeph tells Sanji to take the smaller of the two bags they managed to keep and to go watch for ships on the other side of the rock. He tells Sanji to portion his food as they only have about 5 days worth. Sanji says it's no fair that Zeph gets a bigger bag, but Zeph tells him to be grateful that he's sharing. Sanji sits on the other side of the island, scared that he's going to die. On the other side, Zeph takes a large rock, smashing it on his leg. This is the end of Red Shoes Zeph.
Woof.
This chapter destroyed me
Ugh.
as a teenager. Destroyed me. Shattered me into 1,000 pieces.
Just like
Destroyed me as an adult. That was some shit.
Well, hold on. I'm getting a little ahead of myself. This chapter and the chapter that comes next. But
collectively.
as
The backstory on a whole.
But I mean, yeah. So we'll get there. But I mean, this is the first half of destruction, and I am shattered by the next one. But yeah, because you don't fully get why he's doing this at first. You're like, wait, what?
Yeah.
And then, oh my goodness. But yeah, just as an isolation, this is a rough chapter.
Oof. Well,
Yeah,
to start with
so-
the first panel, look at the ship design. I love this.
Yeah.
One has like a giant duck chef with a fork and knife, and the other one has like a wine bottle as the
Yeah.
head. Love that. Oh, and you get to see Zeph's jolly, which literally is like a duck head with a chef hat.
Yeah. So love when these crews commit to their gimmick.
Yeah.
And even the Orbit has like you said, the wine bottle, so they're committing to like being like this like luxury like passenger cruise ship. But yeah, things take a big turn here. So
I think young Sanji standing up reminds me a lot of young Luffy as well. I feel like there's a lot of parallels in their determination and dedication to fulfilling their dreams, you know, or like trying to reach that goal and not backing down.
Yeah.
And when Zeph sees him go overboard, and instead of grabbing like a flotation device, he instead takes the mast in half and takes the mast with him as a floating device.
I mean,
wow.
Sometimes
What a move.
Yeah, that's pretty boss.
That was boss. That was a killer move. I'm just going to take this mast with me. Oh, yeah, this is such a good chapter.
It's a lot. Makes you wonder, like, I mean, we know, but like, Zeph's pretty brutal here to a degree, though he's also brutal, but honorably brutal, where he's like, we're not taking their food. We're just taking their money. But it's still a far cry from this guy seemingly to a chef of a restaurant. So I was intrigued to learn more how we get there, and we do to a degree. So yeah.
It seems like a big sacrifice for like just a glint of like seeing himself in Sanji and seeing Sanji go overboard and just like fully committing. I mean, he broke the ship, so obviously the ship's not gonna like. He knew at that point the ship was going down. So he's like, "I'm
on
just
the
gonna
Orbit,
take the
right?
mast with me. They don't need it." But yeah, that was a killer move.
Yeah, but I do love that point with Zeph, kind of like we talked about Sanji earlier too. That passed along, but like Sanji's like, as long as you aren't dying by starvation, like I'll beat you if that's what it takes, you know. So Zeph kind of shows that here as well. So he's like, we're not gonna take their food. We're just gonna take the valuables because we're pirates after all. But they're like, Zeph understands the importance of food and doesn't want people to go through that starvation. So yeah, so I really like seeing that side of Zeph here. and that he has a code that he operates under.
Definitely.
That's a good way to put it. Like he has a code. Like he has certain things that he follows regardless. Not necessarily morals, but codes.
Yeah.
Or like
Yeah.
guidelines to actually.
Yeah. Follows his own rules. But some of them I do find very admirable. And like, you know, you see him take his own leg at the end of this chapter, which is like shows a lot of I don't know, willpower. That's wild. And his legs are like his weapon. Like that's his signature move. I mean, he's called Red Shoes.
Yeah. But like we said, the cooks here are honoring their hands more than their legs. So to him, he'd rather sacrifice his foot than a hand because he can't cook without his hands.
Brutal.
Yeah.
So to him, I think the cooking was, you know, his priority here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it turns out that was always
the
the
passes.
thing. Yeah.
Woof, eating your own leg. I mean, there's cannibalism and then there's eating your own leg.
Well, we haven't gotten there yet, technically, but
Yeah.
we know. Yeah.
Well, why else would he do it at this point?
I mean, well, I didn't as a kid. I didn't know. I
Okay.
didn't.
Right.
I couldn't even comprehend it. I was just like, did he injure it? Is it? I assume. I guess maybe I assumed in the fall somehow, or in washing up on the shore, it had become like something went wrong with it. I don't know, and he was gonna. If he didn't cut it off, he'd die or something. But not quite.
To that point, there's a big bag of food right behind him.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, but at least he gave Sanji some food. So he's showing some heart here. He's not as heartless as you'd think a pirate would be. So, but yeah, hopefully somebody finds him soon.
Let's hope.
But how about we take a little detour back over to the Buggy Pirates for the next part of the cover story. Buggy's crew after the battle, part 17. Intense 12-hour battle. Kabaji and Moji can barely stand from their fight as Richie dreams that he's the captain. Like, I can do this all night.
I love how the crew have all just laid down where they were standing and cheering and went to sleep.
Yeah. Like, yeah, wake us up when it's over. We'll tell us who won.
One or the other. We'll figure it
And
out.
Joel, to your point, in Richie's dream, he has changed the mast to like a lion. So he's thinking,
so maybe
if I
the
were to be
Lion Pirates.
captain, we'd be the Lion Pirates.
Yeah. He's got big aspirations.
Yeah. Changing the game.
Still has to hold up the gimmick, though.
Yeah, exactly. You got to stay on some kind of brand. You got, as long as it's your own brand, then that's the important thing.
Yeah.
You got to find your own brand. Moving on to chapter 58, The Crap Geezer. As Sanji watches for ships, he thinks to himself that he won't tell Zeph if he sees one. Sanji optimistically expects to see a ship within 5 days, but decides to portion his food for 20, and he can drink the rainwater. He thinks if he can make it through 20 days, he should be fine. It begins to rain on the 5th day, but he does see a ship. He calls out to it, but it seems they don't hear him as it sails off along with Sanji's hope. After 25 days, Sanji is down to his last piece of food, as he thinks back to how on the cooks on the orbit, they would eat the scraps of leftovers. Unfortunately, Sanji drops a piece of bread into the ocean and is left with nothing. On the 70th day, Sanji decides to go over to the other side to see if Zeph is still alive. Sanji sees that Zeph still has his entire bag of food. He decides to take it for himself, only to discover it's just treasure. Zeph had given all of the food to Sanji and smashed off his own foot to eat it in order to survive. Sanji is confused as to why Zeph would do this for him, which he explains is because he had the same dream as him, to find the All Blue. Zeph goes on to explain that without his crew, it's not worth being a pirate anymore. He talks about how he would wish that there was a restaurant out in the middle of the ocean when people couldn't find anything to eat. Sanji agrees to help him with the restaurant if they survive. On the 85th day, the ship returns, and this time they notice Zeph and Sanji on the rock. Back in the present, Sanji reaffirms that he won't give up Zeph's restaurant after everything he did for him. He will defend it with his life in order to repay the debt he owes to the man.
Oof.
This was there's nothing, I mean, very little more to say I can say than oof. It is just, it broke me. This 2-chapter saga broke me.
Yeah, the sacrifice from Zeph is heart-wrenching.
Yeah,
and
so there's a lot to unpack here.
Yeah, big impact. And like I was saying, that his words didn't really land earlier, but they do in this chapter. I think this is the chapter where he kind of reiterates the fact they have the same dream, they have the same strengths and stuff like that. And I feel like it kind of lands home in this chapter.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, so like just like the whole way that this plays out, so you can kind of see like Sanji's like optimism, as they're newly stranded. He's hopeful. He's like, yeah, it should only be a few days, but worst case scenario, I'll save like 20 days worth of food. I'll portion it out that way. And then it seems like there's a glimmer of hope. It's like after 5 days, it seemed like Sanji was right. Oh, I have to wait a few days, but then the ship just kind of moves on, doesn't see him. So then there's kind of that despair as it just kind of moves on. And then we can kind of see like Sanji's like hopelessness as time goes on, and and then he's out of food, and he drops like the last piece of food because he's so weak, and and then he gets desperate. So then going over to see what the deal is with Zeph, he's like, Zeph's still alive, so he did something. He has like an entire bag of food. So what's he doing? What's the secret? Why is like his why is he still here? So Sanji tries to take the food. It turns out to be treasure, which doesn't do anything. Like you have all this treasure, and like you would think you'd be able to buy all this food, but it means nothing in this case. Like they're just gonna die, and the treasures it could be dirt for like all it's worth right now. So that's like the real kicker here. Yeah,
this backstory is so good.
Yeah,
so well done.
What's the point of all this gold? You can choke on it.
So good.
Yeah, it's just
85 days on half a leg and rainwater.
It's a bit hard to chew on, pun intended. But, a bit hard to swallow, I guess.
Yeah,
I was trying to say there.
Yeah, I was curious. I did look it up, and they say that in some conditions, people can go 70 days without food. So 85 is still kind of pushing, especially Sanji's had more food throughout that time period, so it hasn't been a full 70 days for him. So he had 20 days worth of food, which less than 20 days because it's smaller portions, but he's had food within that time period. But yeah, Zeph has been trying to make this foot last for for so long. I'm sure the meat didn't last too long. But
thankfully, he's a kicker, so he's got some meaty calves.
Yeah, I suppose. a lot of lean meat on there.
Yeah, but he's basically like all bones at this point.
Yeah, that's true.
It's really sad to see like where he is now.
Yeah, they're both in pretty rough shape after 85 days.
I do want to point out that with the anime, they actually do this differently. So, Sean, I'm not sure if you've seen this in the anime, but what happens is when Zeph jumps into the water to dive in after Sanji, his leg gets caught in the chain.
Oh.
So he loses his foot because of the chain from the boat, not when he's on the island and he doesn't choose to sacrifice it.
So how does he survive?
So he still has like the other leg. So I think he has to like cut the other leg off because it's stuck in the chain. It's been a while since I've seen it, but yeah, he basically loses the leg from the chain when he's trying to swim.
Okay, so that's why he cuts it off, or
yeah, so that's how he loses his foot is because it gets caught. So then later on, they wash up on that rock.
So in the anime, he doesn't have a foot or a leg. He's got no feet.
So instead of cutting it off to eat it, like he does
So-
here, he loses it like going into the water to dive after Sanji. So he still goes in to save Sanji and loses it that way.
So he doesn't eat anything on the island. He somehow just survives without eating for 85 days.
Do they still do the treasure bit where he takes a treasure and leaves the food for Sanji?
Yeah, so he still does that.
That's dumb. I don't like that at
No,
all.
yeah, I don't like it either.
And I think I know why they do it, because they were like, no, this is too gross for us. We can't do this. We can't have this cannibalism.
Yeah,
or
they're like
whatever,
weird
tough
about that kind of
cannibalism.
stuff sometimes.
Yeah, that's bullshit. That's horse shit. I'm sorry.
No, it feels less impactful. It feels like
it's bad.
just because of the circumstances. It happens that way. Where this feels like a very deliberate decision that he has to make.
Yeah.
To sacrifice, and it feels like he's doing it for Sanji. So it's just like they make a few little differences like here and there. So that's just one that does. It doesn't bother me a lot, but it's just I feel like it's less poetic than the way it plays out in the manga.
Yeah, based off your description, I would agree. I feel like I think that was such a compelling part of this backstory.
Mm-hmm. I love it very much and would not be able to handle any change like that. No, thank you.
Yeah, so this paints a very different picture from what we've been seeing from these characters and why they're so dead set on not letting people starve to death, because they almost went through it themselves and they know how horrible it is to experience that and like the hopelessness of it. So they don't want that to happen to anybody else. Again, like it's fine if they die by other means or by fighting, but yeah, not from starving this way.
Mm-hmm.
So that
Maybe that's how Sanji got so resilient.
Yeah, I do remember this. Yeah, this had a big impact on me as well. Just like the whole like reveal again, like Zeph choosing not to take any of the food, giving it all to Sanji, knowing full well that in the big bag it was all treasure, but Sanji thinking that there's food and he was being greedy and holding it all to himself. That's such a great reveal.
Yeah.
More than any of the blood, well, not that this isn't in some way bloody or something in its own way and it's gross, but more than like the blood or the fighting or the stuff, was like, okay, so this isn't just like a cartoony, silly manga. This gets dark at times.
Yeah.
It gets significantly dark, and that really, it hooked me. The edgelord teenager was like, oh, there's something for me as well. Not that I'm saying, not that I'm dismissing this as edginess. It's very good, but it's great. It's great stuff.
Yeah, it's totally very different from silly, goofy, fun manga. Like it gets serious, and like Oda's not afraid to go there sometimes. And like I've said this a few times already, but like to me, I just think that One Piece is a series that can really balance like all those different types of tones really well and make it feel very fluid and part of the same story and feel organic without feeling forced or whatever. So he's really good at like showing those different sides of like the story.
I think his art style plays a role in that that type of storytelling, like that fluidity. I think that in his, like, especially in the fight scenes in this volume so far, I think that he's kind of like really found a stride in like the fight scenes and like the impact scenes. Like some of Sanji's kicks and like Sanji getting beat up by Pearl, I thought like those panels like you really felt the contact and you felt the fight happening, and like I think all of that, like you're saying, kind of just leads to a fluid storytelling, and you just get like wrapped up in it,
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, this has got to be one of the best backstories we've had so far.
I think
so. My favorite, yeah.
So good.
Well, it's my favorite so far.
Yeah. This is a really, really strong one. Yeah. It is one of my favorites, and yeah. Okay, so any final thoughts before we move on?
I wonder how that leg tasted.
Like chicken.
Salty.
Like chicken.
Okay. Buggy's crew after the battle, part 18. Rampage. Sleepwalking Richie. In Richie's sleepwalking dreams of conquest, he accidentally defeats both Kabuji and Moji at the same time.
Let's go, Richie.
Let's go.
All right.
He's
Talk
doing
about
Yeah,
it.
manifesting
clear
your dreams. I wish I could sleepwalk and accomplish my dreams. That'd be pretty freaking cool.
I get so much more accomplished. Instead, I just get everything done on like 3 hours of sleep.
This is hilarious.
Yeah. This is a funny panel though, because like Richie's face, like, he's very into it, but he thinks something else is going on. So
He's fighting a dragon in his dream.
he didn't hold back on that one.
Amazing. I think the bubble coming out of his nose is like a funny trope. I feel like you see in anime a lot as like showing somebody being asleep.
Yeah.
Like, is that a real thing that happens? Is that something like where does that come from?
No,
it's just to show somebody breathing.
I think it's like a visual way to, because rather than drawing like breath lines or something to show that someone is going. I get. I mean, if you had a really, 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 really bad cold,
right?
Yeah, but short of that, yeah.
I mean, Richie must have a really bad cold because that bubble is like half the size of his head. It's a big bubble. You got some
I don't know the origin for that. There. Yeah. I think that's as good as an explanation as we're going to get for now. Chapter 59, Sanji's Debt. Zeph tells Sanji he doesn't need any favors from him and doesn't need protection. But Sanji tells Zeph that if he hadn't eaten his foot for Sanji's sake, Zeph would have been able to take on all these pirates. The other cooks are surprised to hear Sanji and Zeph's history and now understand why Sanji is so protective of the Baratie. Pearl begins to exclaim that he is a winner, that this is a winner-take-all world and the losers get nothing, which Krieg agrees with, but Gin is silent. Sanji says he continues to fight so the restaurant can stay a restaurant, even for a moment longer. Pearl says it's time to close the restaurant as he clobbers Sanji again. Luffy can't stand this anymore, so he makes the decision to stretch his leg straight up and slam it right down with a gum battle axe, smashing the fin to pieces. Krieg thinks Luffy is up to something and orders Gin to shoot Zeph. Gin hesitates, but Luffy says that he never attacked any of them, but he's going to sink the ship so Krieg can take it for himself. I'm sorry. So Luffy says he never attacked any of them, but he's going to sink the ship so Krieg can't take it for himself. Everyone gets mad at Luffy for this, including Sanji. Sanji tells Luffy that he couldn't understand the debt that he owes to Zeph and the ship, but Luffy thinks it's stupid to die for the ship. Getting killed is no way to repay his debt and would be a waste of Zeph's sacrifice. Pearl decides that this is the perfect time to strike both of them while they are fighting with each other. Gin drops his gun and shatters Pearl's armor to bits. Krieg is furious at this betrayal, but Gin can't allow them to kill Sanji. He offers to be the one to take care of Sanji. Luffy bluffs that this was his plan all along to lure Gin away from Zeph, but Sanji calls his bluff and calls him out for really trying to destroy the ship. Krieg questions if the battle commander of his pirate armada has lost his mind.
All right, let's go, Gin. We're back on Team Gin. Let's go.
Yeah.
Sort of. I mean, he's like, oh, I'm going to kill Sanji myself, but, you know.
It's more like out of honor.
He also didn't immediately shoot Zeph. He hesitates, so.
Yeah, he doesn't want to.
He doesn't want to.
Yeah, he could have easily pulled the trigger and ended it right there and be like, all right, let's take this place. But yeah, he has a soft spot for the Baratie, for Sanji and Zeph's kindness. So yeah, he doesn't want to hurt Sanji. But he's offering to be the one to do it because he feels that if anybody should do it, it should be him.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is a really big bonding chapter for Sanji and Luffy. So like on the first page, there's this cell of Luffy who I think is having like a moment of like realization. I feel like I've mentioned this in the past. I feel like there's usually a moment where Luffy has this like resonance with this character, in this case Sanji, but I feel like he's also had that moment with all of his current crewmates. And and it's kind of like that moment where he's like, yes, this person belongs in my crew, and there's no other option. This person is absolutely going to be in my crew. And I think that moment happens in this chapter with that first cell, and then and Luffy's just like kind of staying there, absorbing everything and kind of analyzing it, like not stepping in. He's letting, people resolve their own issues without his interference. And I think he like can kind of judge or like gauge a person in that moment. And then a few pages later, there's this cell, which is just an exclamation point, but I think that's like his aha moment. And then he makes the move to sacrifice part of the ship in order to save it. So it doesn't burn down. And then he and Sanji kind of go face to face in confrontation. But like that frame where they show Shanks's sacrifice.
Oh yeah,
was like that was a really heavy moment for me, because it's like both of these characters have this father figure who sacrificed literally an arm and a leg for them to survive, like literally. And so I feel like they really bond in that moment because they have that shared experience and that almost like shared trauma, I guess, in that sense. But like, I think it's a motivation for both of them. And I think Luffy sees that in this moment and kind of jumps on it.
That's a really good point. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that too. Because these like father figures kind of like bet on these kids' futures. So they see something in these kids, and they respect that, and they want them to reach their potential. So they take those sacrifices because they think it's going to be worthwhile to see what these kids do.
Yeah, it's like giving the next generation a chance, kind of.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I loved like one of the last panels where Luffy is like, "Phew, see, it all worked out."
Yeah.
Like, just brushes it off. Yep, that all worked out perfectly. I'm glad we
exactly.
It's all good. They're still in the middle of a battle. All the villains are still there, fully healthy. But he's like, "See, that worked out. We're good. No need to worry. We made the right choice."
I just want to double down on Evan's point there of like that moment where Luffy decides, hey, I want this person on my crew and like the Sanji moment may have come here.
Yeah.
Or I'm absolutely double, triple, quadruple determined. Have either of you, I'm going to guess the answer is no, but have either of you played Yakuza 0?
Nah.
Okay.
Sorry.
When you get new fighting styles in that game, the main character Kiryu witnesses someone else doing a fighting style, like a new fighting move or something, and it will zoom in rapidly on his face, and then he'll go, "That's rad." And then it will say, "You are now learning this fighting style," and that's what I think happens to Luffy every time he sees somebody cool that he wants in his crew. He just zooms in on him. He's like, "Yes."
So are they like Taskmaster, or are they like?
No. He kind of is, because then he just decides, I'm going to learn this, and he learns it pretty quickly.
Okay, but it's not like immediate, but yeah,
it's not immediate, but it's close. Yeah.
It takes a few tries. We got yeah. So some great reactions. One thing I don't know if I completely buy into Luffy telling Sanji that it's dumb for him to die for this, because I feel like Luffy would probably put his life on the line for something that he believes in. So I get the point he's making.
Mm-hmm.
But I also feel like Luffy has in the past respected like somebody fighting for what they believed in to the death. Like with Boodle, we know that like he respected Boodle for wanting to go and fight for the town, but he ended up stopping him because he knew that he wasn't going to be able to. But yeah, I kind of feel like that's a little different from what we've seen. But I get the point he's making here about how Zeph specifically made a sacrifice for Sanji, and like he doesn't want that to be thrown away to return the favor. So just kind of like it's kind of canceling out the favor that he did for Sanji. But also kind of in a way that I mean, I don't know how the ship would have fared if Zeph's crew didn't overtake the orbit. But I mean, they were the ones who come and sack the ship, and then caused like the fight to happen. So again, I don't know if the ship would have just been like overtaken by the waves because the storm was that bad, and maybe they only survived because they got washed ashore. Because it seems like everybody else on the cruise, both crews had died. So he probably did save Sanji's life. Now I'm thinking about it because he was there in the first place. So it's less of a case where because the pirates showed up and ruined everything. It's more because they did that. These two at least survived and everybody else died. So they could have died with them if that didn't happen.
Yeah. I think he just decides, depending on the person who needs what type of motivation. But I think you may have a point there as well.
I mean, he knew the ship was not going to make it because he took the mast of the ship with him, right?
Or they were survived if the mast was still there.
Maybe.
He's like, y'all need this. Y'all are going down. And the ships do get sucked into like a whirlpool, don't they?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think both of those ships
they're
were doomed. So
yeah. Gin shows his strength in this chapter. He tears right through Pearl. Maybe because he knows Pearl's weaknesses, because they're, comrades, but I don't know.
He lands a good shot.
What is he even like? What are his fighting tools? They're like nunchuck. I don't know what they're like. They got cannonballs on the end of them, I think.
So I'm going to refer to them as Tonfa.
As what?
Tonfa. Tonfa. So they're
Tonfa.
Yeah, so I mean they have
sort of like a billy club.
Yeah, so I mean they have like the spheres at the end, which is not usual for that.
Right.
So I think it's something that it's more of like his own modification to it. But that's the closest I could find, and then when I looked it up to see, and then that's what I've seen other people refer to it. So that's what I'm going with.
Yeah, I feel like I've seen them without the cannonball attached to the end of it.
Definitely, without the cannonball, they are essentially
creative.
Tonfa. Yeah, but.
Yeah. So like you're saying, it's nice to see again. Gein's wavering here, so he's caught between two opposing sides, and he's right in the middle, and he can't really play both sides. So he kind of has to commit to picking one of these sides.
Damn it, Gein! Of all the things you could be,
Gein is really on the fence. I mean,
he had to be
back and forth.
You can't be a centrist. One of my favorite characters in this arc can't be a fucking centrist. How dare you? Well, I think we should appreciate Krieg and Zeph's views.
You can see both sides.
I mean, Sean, I was rooting for Gein the whole time for your sake.
Well, thank you.
Like, this is going to turn out okay.
It'll turn out just fine.
Yeah, it also kind of does feel, though, that, like, Sanji's getting a little robbed of his fight because, Pearl's been, like, his adversary in this fight, and he's been kind of getting beat up by Pearl, and then he's not even the one to defeat Pearl. So Sanji is not really kind of proving himself as a fighter.
Yeah,
I mean, he's definitely competent. You can tell he's a competent fighter, and everybody else can see that here.
Gein's gonna stop stealing his thunder.
Yeah.
He also gave those shots to Pearl. Like, they were defenseless attacks. Like, he wasn't putting up a defense. He was taking them to prove a point. I mean, right? Like, he wasn't fighting back.
Yeah. So that way Zeph wouldn't get hurt.
Right. Because they had a hostage situation.
Yeah.
I also like that with Gein. We see another character a moment where he doesn't really say anything when like Pearl and Krieg are like, yeah, the winners have to take everything, and Gein's kind of seems like he's not really buying into it anymore. He's not really drinking the Kool-Aid anymore. It's like he's kind of like
here we go again.
You can see like the kind of the gears turning where he's kind of questioning like his decisions here.
Yeah.
It all worked out.
It all worked out.
Okay. Any other thoughts before we move on to the next chapter?
Pearl is down for the count. Onto the big fish.
To the main course.
Pearl was pretty big fish.
He was like the sampler. Like it's a big appetizer. There's a lot to go around.
Yeah.
Buggy's crew after the battle, part 19, complete. Richie's pirate crew.
All
So
right,
Richie,
King Richie, let's go.
Do it.
Richie celebrates his newfound captainhood over the Buggy Pirates.
All right, we got a new lion jolly.
Yeah, so he's already rebranding. He's like, all right, Buggy Pirates no more.
You can ditch those clown noses.
But, I mean, everybody else seems happy, so like,
Yeah,
I think they're just happy somebody won.
Yeah.
As long as it's
Rather
not
than
them.
the fight kept going, or yeah.
I love the little speech bubble that's the question mark with the lion. Because he literally he gained the throne in his sleep, so he was kind of like,
He's like, what's
"Oh,
happening?
I guess I'm the captain now."
I guess it worked. Yeah.
Yeah, so he's surprised. Like, I don't know what I did, but they seem to like it.
Pretty funny.
Just playing it cool. Chapter 60, Resolution. Gin is remorseful that he has to kill Sanji and hoped that he would have left, but the best he can offer is to kill him by his own hand. Sanji tells Gin to eat worms. Gin also says Luffy should have left with his crew, but Luffy doesn't understand why because he wouldn't lose to a bunch of weaklings. This gets the Creek pirates offended, but Luffy doubles down, saying that they aren't tough, they just have a lot of people. Krieg tells his men to calm down, as getting upset would just prove Luffy was right. The results of the battle will speak for themselves. Krieg asks Luffy which of the two of them is king of the pirates material. Without hesitation, Luffy matter-of-factly states, me. Krieg is ready to stop messing around. He pulls up his shield and prepares to launch the MH5 poison gas. Everyone starts to panic, but Krieg's men are prepared with their own gas masks. Luffy is undeterred as he prepares to bounce the projectile right back. Turns out, Krieg lied, and the projectile bursts, shooting out shurikens in all directions. Luffy takes some cuts and gives the first point to Krieg. Krieg again asks Luffy which of them is king of the pirates material. Once again, Luffy says himself and has not been swayed one bit. Krieg gets angry, ordering Gin to take care of Sanji while he takes care of Luffy. Sanji and Gin begin fighting. Gin tells Sanji that they call him the Demon Man, telling him that he won't show him any mercy as he pins Sanji down with his tonfa. Alright, any thoughts on this one?
Eat worms.
Eat worms.
That's a good one, yeah.
That was such a good line.
King of the Pirates says what?
Right after Gin is like, I guess the best I can do is just kill you myself.
I
Yeah.
guess that we
Like,
could
I
just...
guess.
Alright, Pawn Stars.
Best I can offer you is a brutal death.
Yeah. But yeah, I love how after seeing what Krieg can do, Luffy's not really impressed by Krieg. Like, yeah, I'm still the king of the pirates material. As if
Yeah.
like what Krieg did like would sway Luffy. After he just gave that speech to his own men about like not getting like worked up about it. But he kind of like lets some of it like seep through the cracks too. He's like all frustrated that Luffy can't see his greatness.
Yeah,
It's so great.
Yeah.
Doom.
Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah, that's a great panel.
Great panel.
And I love how Luffy calls out Krieg for like saying that like they're not tough. They're just they have a lot of them. So
Yeah.
they have strength in numbers. So yeah, like we were saying before, how like Krieg just like amassed like these objects. He has like the armor, he has like these tricks, and then like he has like the men, but doesn't really show true strength.
Quantity, not quality.
Yeah. And then also I like Krieg's tactics, how he shows how tricky he is. That is pretty smart, how he says he's doing a different attack. In a series where like everybody announces their attack.
Right?
He announces one attack and it's a different one, so
You
it
broke the
throws him off.
code.
Yeah. But I love how underhanded and like sneaky that is.
Yeah, very on character for him. Like he's
Definitely.
been very underhanded, sneaky, manipulative. Very unlikable character with zero redeeming qualities.
Yeah, and a lot of his fighting has been from a distance. So he's trying to
Yeah.
keep like Luffy away from him. So I think that's an interesting thing to take note of, is that he's using more tactics. It's still not even strength; it's like the tools he's using that are to his advantage. So he's trying to keep Luffy away because he's like shooting stuff, throwing stuff. He's shooting like the he's shooting like the shurikens. Like the ball and chain. So yeah, everything that he's fought with so far has been from far away.
I feel like he measures his strength by his weapons of war.
Exactly.
Which is kind of the terminology that he uses. Like, I can't be defeated because I have this shield. It's like, well, do you know how to use the shield? Because that's important. Like, shield guy got kicked in the face a lot for never being kicked in the face ever. Never got a bloody nose.
So tough, right? Yeah.
Oh, he got a bloody nose, and then he gets a second bloody nose, and he said, "I've gotten 2 bloody noses," which is a funny thing to say because you only have 1 nose, but you get 2 bloody noses. Like,
yeah,
how does that
that's
work?
English for you.
Anyways.
Yeah, I do like how Krieg says the outcome will tell us who's strong and who's weak. So yeah, I can totally get behind that. So we'll see the outcome of this and how that plays out. I agree with what he's saying here.
It's not looking good for Sanji at the end of this chapter. He looks very pinned by Gin.
Yeah, so I do like this fight here with Sanji and Gin.
I guess he kind of like dives backwards to dodge Sanji's kick at the end there.
Yeah.
It's a weird move, but I guess it works.
They call me the Demon Man.
You think it'd be the Snake Man based on his
jacket,
but
his moves there too.
Well, snakes and demons have a bit of a correlation, don't they? Yeah, so
could be
in certain times. I do like. I don't know what the point of the shield is when he's blasting that thing. I guess it's just a container for the shuriken bomb, but because I don't know. Krieg is just man, and nothing can be just basic for him because it's not just the tool. He has a lot of tools. It's a lot of ostentatious tools. It's a lot of like it's also got to look all shiny and ridiculous and over the top. Like
it has like a fur lining to it.
Yeah, like what is the tactical purpose of that, buddy? Well, it makes my arms warm. It keeps my arms warm. I guess so.
It's very over the top because I was looking at these panels for like a little bit because it looks like the skull like has like the mouth and the mouth opens up this way, and then the doors on the side open up the other way. So the skull has to go up first before those doors can open from the side. So it has like this whole like mechanism thing to move it that way. So I just
we're shitting on the shield, but it's a very cool shield.
It is a cool shield, yeah.
A little audacious, but it's cool.
It's cool.
Yeah, it does have their Jolly Roger with the hourglasses on the side.
Yeah,
saying the time's run out.
Looks very shiny.
This chapter does have some really cool action shots though. Like the way Luffy dodges like the shuriken. He still gets hit a little bit, but yeah, it's very, very dynamic. You can't really see too well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then just like the way like we were talking about the way Gin and Sanji move around. So yeah, that's thing. It's like it's harder to talk about the fight scenes because like they look cool, but they're at the same time they're action pieces.
Yeah, I feel like
this is a pretty powerful hit though. The way Gin smashes over to Sanji and Sanji jumps out of the way. You can see how it smashes through.
I get what you mean, yeah. Very dynamic.
Okay, and then last thing I wanted to bring up was they had their first popularity poll.
Oh yeah.
Yes. Let's talk about this.
So these do come up every once in a while after a period of time. Like they'll update the popularity poll. So it's interesting to see which characters start out like being popular and like how it changes over time. But it's reassuring to have Luffy be number 1. Of course, you want your main character to be likable. So, Luffy is my personal favorite character of the series. There's a lot of amazing characters in the series, but at the end of the day, Luffy's still my favorite.
Yeah, I agree. I think Luffy's definitely my favorite, but there are some surprises on this list. Like, I think Ben Beckman being number 6 is a surprise to me.
Yeah,
At this
he's
point,
had like
like,
3
as far as
lines.
we've gotten, like, I feel like I barely have seen this character. Like, I literally had to like Google his name to remember who he was.
he looks cool though.
He is cool. I do like Ben Beckman.
Yeah, but like he got ranked over Usopp. He got ranked over like Mihawk.
I think that was like
Over Kobe. Come on.
Yeah, so just going down the first few, we had Luffy as number 1, then Zoro, Shanks, Sanji, and Nami. So those are the top 5. And then Mihawk was number 14. And then the biggest offense is that Morgan's not even listed.
Oh no!
Captain Morgan does not make this list.
He's the greatest though.
He's under Captain of the Naval Base in 35th place, who's tied with Rika and Ganzak, who are characters who weren't even in the story. They were just like little sketches from the
Wow.
anime. So Morgan's probably under many votes for others too.
Wow. Panda got 32nd.
Yeah.
Makito beat Gold Roger.
Rabbit Snake.
Boodle got 30th. I feel like he should have ranked higher than that.
Yeah, whatever. His
But
name is too
33rd
silly.
place is Rabbit Snake. 33rd place tied is Pig Lion from Gaimon's Island, like the little creatures.
Amazing. Tied in 33rd. Wow.
Like imagine writing and being like, my favorite character is Rabbit Snake. Rabbit Snake could be more popular than Luffy. Mark my words.
Wow. Well,
But I guess
remind me who Kuina is, number 10.
The girl that died in Zoro's backstory. The one,
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, back in the first.
Top 10? Yeah. I mean, a great character, but top 10?
Again, reminder: Mihawk is 14th place.
I know that was. I think that was the biggest error in my opinion. I feel like Mihawk should definitely be top 10.
Now, I think it's because Mihawk was very new at the time when they did the poll, so a lot of people might not have been like keeping up regularly enough, or it just might have been by the time like the poll is being done. Like I think that's mostly what that's the result of. But Gold Roger is in 13th place. You know, the king of the pirates. We've only seen like one panel of him
getting executed.
Yeah,
yeah, seriously.
Guess he wasn't so great after
opening five panels, and that was it.
Buggy number 7 though. Buggy,
respectable.
That's fair.
Buggy, yeah. I'm surprised at how high Captain Kuro was at number 9.
Yeah, I mean, I remember he was my favorite villain so far, so I'm sympathetic to a degree. He's not any longer, but
Geen got 11th. That's pretty good.
Yeah, there's my boy.
And again, he's one of the newer characters, and people from the newer arc, they seem to place a bit lower. People haven't as much time to get used to them, so.
Wow, Kuina, number 10. Again, great character. No problems with the character, but top 10. We're 7 volumes in. Let's go, people.
Okay, so yeah, I just thought those are fun to see what people thought back in the day.
I mean, Luffy and Zoro have like a pretty commanding lead over everyone else.
They do.
The top 2 are pretty distinct.
Yeah, Zoro gets pretty close. He's only 1,000 votes off.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the next chapter. 61, the Demon. Geen prepares to smash Sanji with his other Tonfa, but Sanji slips out from underneath, kicking Geen in the face with a handstand. Geen retaliates with a shot to Sanji's ribs as they both fall over. The Krieg pirates are starting to doubt Geen, but their captain has confidence in his battle commander. The men acknowledge that Geen is a demon who will torture men without mercy as they scream. Sanji taunts Gin, telling him the Krieg pirates can't be tough if Gin's the best they have. Luffy tries to make a move on Krieg, but Krieg notices, so he launches a series of stakes at Luffy to stop him in his tracks as one pierces his leg. Krieg and Luffy mock each other, but Krieg is more focused on Gin, telling him to finish Sanji, who is now bleeding on the ground. They each make a move on each other, but even though Sanji lands a hit, he can't take the pain from his own attacks due to his broken ribs. Sanji is helpless as Gin prepares to finish Sanji off, with tears in his eyes. Gin breaks down and admits that he can't kill Sanji. Nobody has ever treated him with such kindness, so he cannot bring himself to do it. Krieg has lost all faith in Gin and prepares to take the matters into his own hands.
Man, Gin is really on an emotional, moral roller coaster here.
Yeah.
Are you guys Team Gin at this point? Or are you guys like over?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I am always thinking.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy is back and forth and back and forth and back and forth.
Which I completely get. He's conflicted.
Yeah.
He's living the life of a pirate. This is like a new experience for him. He's not used to having to care about somebody or showing sympathy for somebody. But because of the kindness that Sanji showed him, it kind of like opened up Gin's like perceptions and given him a new look on life to some degree. Not saying he's going to change from being a pirate and stop being who he is, but he's not this bloodthirsty, like cruel person without like a conscience like Krieg seems to be. Like Krieg had no problem turning on a dime the second he got fed. Like he's like, all right, great, thanks for feeding me. I'm going to take a ship now. So, so Gin has more of a sympathy to him. I don't know if it's something that he's always had in him, or if it's something that he's just now kind of like getting like a feel for. So it's not really clear.
If the crew is accurate and that they're saying like Krieg or Gin tortures people with a smile on his face or something, I have to imagine this is pretty recent, but who knows?
Right. So yeah, definitely. But what I'm not sure is like if like this one moment is going to change like who he is, or if this is something that he's kind of had the capacity for. Because we've seen that like Gin has this capacity to have like the conscious and think about what he's doing more than like Krieg seems to do. So I think there's a big difference between those characters in that sense.
And I think it's back to their experiences, and like Gin just went through this experience of being saved by Sanji, and he's kind of seeing the camaraderie with Luffy and his crew and being like, okay, these are pirates who kind of have like a moral standing, or like, you know, aren't just like bloodthirsty out for themselves, like have bigger plans, bigger goals. And I think he kind of has that realization in this chapter. It definitely goes back and forth, and it's hard for him to break old habits. But I think that like at the end, he kind of does have this realization of, you know, his impact and like what he's actually doing.
I'm very proud of him.
Yeah.
It only took several broken bones and bloody floors and just awful stuff to get here. But we got here, and he still licked Sanji's blood up. That was weird. Less like a demon, more like a vampire. But again, I could forgive this man a lot because he's cool. So
I do like how Sanji's still like, you know, just being brash and like mocking Gin, even though like he's still getting his butt kicked a little bit. He's still kind of giving the Gin some trash talk.
classic Sanji.
Yeah.
He's going to fit right into this crew, I think.
Yeah.
That man, that crying face in the last panel, though. Oda again, really. This guy, Oda knows how to draw crying. Is all I can say.
Yeah.
I said it before. I'll say it again.
Yeah.
And he actually makes a comment about that in one of the SBS pages.
Oh, does he? I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, I was saying one of the readers asked if he would recreate the emotions that he's drawing. Like if he's drawing, you know, something funny? Would he laugh? Would he smile for like a happy moment and cry for a sad moment? And he specifically brought up the panel where Usopp disbands his pirate crew.
Yeah.
And they're all just like bawling in
Yeah.
that full page. I can still picture that page because it was so well done.
Yeah.
And he said he did have like a crying face on while doing that whole panel.
Yeah, I think that was in this volume. I think that was one of the SBS questions.
Yeah, it was in this volume.
Yeah.
Nice.
My cat's making a special guest appearance on the podcast.
Oh, hello.
Luna. Join our crew.
Yeah, she's not caught up yet, so don't want to spoil it.
She's still on the Syrup Village arc.
Yeah, she's an anime only watcher.
She's a big fan of the Captain Kuro pirates for a reason. Yeah. I'll show you my cat out of the bag attack, motherfucker. I took a shit in Joel's shoes.
It's like you can read her mind. All right. Any other thoughts before we move on to the last chapter of the volume?
Let's see where the Demon Man takes us, and where I don't think it's going to be anywhere pleasant with his current change of heart. But and the Demon Man's heart grew 3 sizes that day.
If the Grinch can do it, so can Geen.
Yeah.
Okay, so before we get to the chapter, we move on to a new part of the cover story. Adventures of Richie's Pirate Crew Part 1, The Indigenous Kumate Tribe. Captain Richie encounters a native tribe.
Well, I hope this goes well.
Yeah. Looks like the crew has started to adapt the lion theme. I see a cheetah print shirt and a cat hat. Must have made a pit stop and gone costume shopping. Yeah, we'll see how that goes. Not too much to say about that.
Not much to go off of.
Nope.
All right, Chapter 62, MH5. Krieg expresses his disappointment with his so-called battle commander. Geen relays that he doesn't regret anything he did under Krieg's command, but this is the one person he won't kill. Geen begs Krieg to spare the ship this one time, but Krieg becomes enraged. He will not tolerate this disobedience as he prepares the MH5 poison gas. For real this time. Krieg tells Geen to drop his gas mask as he is no longer part of his crew. The crew doesn't believe their captain would go as far as to kill Geen, because he's shown how trustworthy he's been so far. They tell how Geen acted as a decoy to cause Full Body to chase after him instead of Krieg after they had escaped the Grand Line. Nobody has been more loyal than Geen. Luffy tries to stop Krieg from shooting the poison gas, but is kept at bay by the shooting stakes again. Geen tells Luffy he could never defeat Krieg as he tosses his gas mask away, saying he deserves to die for failing to uphold his duty. Krieg then launches the MH5 right where Luffy, Sanji, and Geen are standing. Luffy reaches over to grab some masks from the pirates in the water, tossing them over to Geen and Sanji. Luffy realizes that he is left without a mask as everyone else dives underwater. Fortunately, a mask lands right next to Luffy just in time for him to put it on. After 5 minutes, the gas begins to disperse. Geen is pinning Sanji down as he holds the gas mask over his face. Geen had tossed his own mask to Luffy, leaving him vulnerable to the MH5 gas. Krieg mocks Geen, telling him death is a cure for foolishness. Now Luffy's mad.
Geen!
So fucked in so many ways. And I remember I went back and when I reread this chapter, I forgot how Geen loses the mask again, and it's funny because it's all there. Like Luffy's like, "Oh, where'd this mask come from? Oh, I guess I'll just take it." And it's like you're like, "Oh my god, it's all there." Yeah, it's just
11th place for Geen. I mean, really?
Come on. Well, was that before or after this chapter came out?
That was before.
Yeah, so.
I guess that's true.
Yeah, I'm sure his popularity jumped after this chapter came out.
Back and forth with Geen. I mean, what a way to go.
Yeah, I think it says a lot about both Krieg and Geen in this case. How Krieg is, again, he has no loyalty to anyone except himself. So he's committing like the ultimate sin in the Luffy's eyes, where a captain is not there for his crew. So we know Luffy views like the captain as like, not being like the most important figure. Like the captain like has a duty to his crew, and like it's symbiotic in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Krieg sees it as like we've seen with the other crews as well. They see the captain as being the most important part of the crew, and everybody else needs to obey the captain. The captain is law. So, seeing Krieg basically taking everything that Geen has done for him and not even taking it into consideration, not even a factor for him. He's ready to toss Geen like trash.
He deserves a better captain. There's an alternate universe where maybe Geen could have joined the crew as well, but it was never going to happen. This is kind of how it was always going to end. I feel like almost like there's a certain level of loyalty and a certain level of, I don't know. It's just this weird. I mean, he's been mentally abused by Krieg at this point. They all have.
Yeah.
Into like just got to be ride or die, and literally die if I tell you to die. So it's just like, ugh, gross.
Yeah, I think the rest of the crew kind of comes along because they see like, oh, if we are part of this crew, we're part of something stronger. So I think they want to have that like sense of belonging and kind of like a protection. It's like, oh, we can just kind of coast by under Krieg's power, but not realizing that like he's not really as powerful as like everybody thinks that he is on the crew. So yeah, I think that they're kind of just there for that, not because like they love Krieg, but it's more because they see it as like a survival.
It's definitely like a power scheme, and I feel like that's kind of a common theme in most of the villains that we've seen. Almost all the villains that we've seen so far is like ruling through power, and like you said, being the most important. Where we see Luffy's approach to being captain, and he is like picking people that are going to benefit him and his crew, and he's like searching for someone who's going to contribute to the team, and he's building a team. He's not just like trying to amass numbers so that they're quote unquote more powerful,
right?
Which Luffy and Sanji just proved to be completely wrong, because the two of them just took out like an entire armada of dudes. So
yeah, and like you've been saying, Luffy is forming a genuine bond and connection with these characters.
Yeah,
it's like he is seeking out these people that have similar like ideals and goals and philosophies and just a good outlook on life. So he's finding people that are like-minded with him, and they're going to ultimately be a better crew in that sense than like these ragtag people just kind of coming along for the ride because they think they're part of something greater than themselves, but they're not actively contributing to it. They're just kind of feeding off of that.
And then running away when it becomes time to show your mettle. Like that's been a theme through all of the previous crews they fought.
Or like like Buggy's crew, going back to Buggy's crew, how like I said before, how nobody stood up to help him. They just kind of pretended to be knocked out. So those are the kinds of people that are on these other crews.
They all stand around and root for their captain. They don't contribute.
Yeah, they just, we provide moral support. That's just as good, right? No.
I mean, it adds great comic relief to some of the battle scenes, though.
Yeah.
The like side comments that the opposing crew is having. It's pretty funny usually.
I do like this this new crying face for Geen when he asks for the ship to be spared.
Yeah, man. Like I said, another Oda and his crying faces.
Yeah, a good one.
Like, Geen in his head right is like, the second I ask this question, I'm signing my death warrant. But I have to ask it because my honor has to go this way. Like,
Yeah.
he knows he's dead. Like, he knows there's no way. Does he really think after spending what, like 20 something years with Krieg, or who knows how long? It's like at least a decade plus, I imagine, to get the position that he's in, his second in command. He knows Krieg better than I imagine any of the crew members do. He knows in his head, Krieg, there's no fucking way Krieg's just gonna be like, yeah, sure, what the hell? We'll call it a day, boys. Pack up and go. Like, like
you've appealed to my my senses. Yeah.
We all know my sense of forgiveness and my sense of just letting things be. That's definitely who I am as a person. Let's just hit the road, boys.
This is all a test game. You passed.
You passed. So it just makes it all the more like, oh, this is brutal.
But I like how they also talk about how loyal Geen is, and they use an example of something that happened 2 days ago. How Geen was a decoy and lured full body away. So that way, like, he would go off of Krieg's tail. But like, this just happened. Like, remember that time? And it's like this. Yeah, remember that time we had just escaped from the Grand Line? This like just happened. Like, you couldn't have come up with like another example that was maybe like, a long time ago. Like,
I mean,
not saying that Geen. I'm sure Geen has other examples. I just think it's odd to choose
a funny one.
This
yeah.
one.
I can guess why he did. Oda was like, "Look, I gotta get this chapter out, okay, guys. I can't think of something else here."
I mean, he could have just plugged in like any other like Navy man or like pirate crew or whatever.
Yeah. He went with what's on the reader's mind. Isn't that what Geen's real purpose is, or the crew's real purpose is to the reader? That's what they've always been here for.
Yeah, and just Geen's sacrifice is really touching. Like,
Yeah,
he's like legitimately like repaying the favor to Sanji here, even though he's the one that brought Krieg here. I don't think he never intended this, clearly. But he's giving up his own gas mask. Krieg tells him to throw down the mask, don't put it on. Like, he expects him to obey that order. I guess he does in a way.
he does.
So he saves Sanji by giving up his own mask, and Luffy giving it to Luffy. You don't have to save Luffy either. So I think that's also another sign that Geen has more growth than like you might initially think, because he's also showing the sympathy and carrying it over towards Luffy. We didn't directly feed him like Sanji did that, but he's still recognizing Luffy as like, somebody I don't want to really hurt in this case.
Feels well of him.
I think Geen was the star of this volume for sure. I mean, it was just
I
like
think so.
a back and forth every chapter. It seemed like he landed on a different side at the end of each chapter. Kept us on our toes.
But I think that goes to show like how conflicted he is, because he is trying to appease two different sides who are at opposite ends of like this goal of this fight. I was just flipping through and I saw this page with Luffy's reaction face.
Classic.
There it is. Yeah. Like, what am I gonna do?
So good. And this last panel, the very last panel of the volume.
Oh yeah.
Luffy is pissed. 4 exclamation points pissed.
4 exclamation points. Quadruple points.
Wow.
Look at that mouth size.
Look at that neck vein.
All those teeth.
Dude is mad.
That tongue the size of a baseball. I mean, that's classic with Luffy. I mean, he can actually do that. So, like, okay, that's fair. I can't really be like, oh, that's an artistic mistake. I'm like, no, he can make it the size of a freaking trampoline if he wanted to.
Yeah, it's definitely an artistic decision here.
I know.
Yeah. So that's fair. Yeah, so that about does it for this volume. Does anybody have any final thoughts? Any wrap up ideas? Want to get off your chest?
This wasn't volume. What's volume number is this?
This is 7.
Incorrect. This wasn't volume 7. This was volume Geen.
That was a test. We failed.
Yeah. But yeah, great, really good stuff overall. I'm glad that the character I kind of latched onto in my teenage years is still kind of just as cool in some ways. So and I have words to say, but I'll say them after we complete the next volume or whatever, or complete this arc or something more about Geen and stuff. Yeah, this was me very much like, oh, what's next? What's next? What's next? What's next?
Yeah, me too.
So I'm excited to see where we go next.
Yeah, I feel like chronologically, not a lot actually happens in this volume. It was a lot of backstory, which I think was exceptional. And like I said, I think it's some of the best backstory we've gotten so far.
Yeah.
With Sanji and Zeph. I mean, that was so good. And some like really dynamic fight scenes with Sanji and Zeph. So I think overall is a really good volume.
Yeah, a lot of it does feel like middle of the story, so like Act 2.
Yeah, for sure.
A
lot of setup.
So yeah, a lot of setup and kind of setting the stage. Yeah, like I was saying before, like Pearl is not really a character that I'm particularly fond of that much. So I'm not really a big fan of the fight, but
he feels more like a plot device than a real foe. He's
yeah,
he's a wall of meat that they have to get by at one point.
yeah, and he's only there for about like 2 or 3 chapters, so he's not like a really major player. So he doesn't eat up that much of the story. But at the same time, it's just always fun to have like these wacky, goofy characters, and like again, introducing this concept that he just lights on fire as a defense mechanism, like
sure,
just because.
Sure.
And he does put up quite a fight, and it takes his own crew member to take him down. So
almost instantly though, like it took Geen very little effort to break his impenetrable defense.
I think that shows what Geen is capable of and how he's been holding back.
Yeah, and they show Sanji fighting him, but Sanji has been heavily handicapped by his fight with his defenseless fight with I'm blanking.
With, Pearl?
Pearl. Thank you.
But yeah, finally getting some of Sanji's backstory. Again, we talked about it quite a bit, but like, yeah, to me, it's definitely a highlight of this arc. And yeah, it definitely had big impact on me going through it the first time. Yeah, and finally getting a little bit more of the things we've been getting like set up for, and like those clues, and seeing why Sanji is the way that he is, and what he learned from Zeph. I think it is really touching, and the Sanji's trying to uphold the things that he learned from Zeph. And we can kind of see like sometimes like they're antagonistic with their relationship, but it's from a place of caring.
Yeah,
like you can tell like they care about each other.
It's the way you rib your friends, or you rib your
yeah,
rib your like cool uncle or something, or like
exactly. But yeah, I think that's going to be it for this episode. So you can find this episode wherever podcasts are found at or at wearereadingonepiece.buzzsprout.com or on our YouTube channel at We Are Reading One Piece. So this is a spoiler-free channel up to where we have recorded in the podcast so far. So if you are new to the series and this is your first time going through, you can visit the channel there. You can also find me and this podcast on my YouTube channel at Pirate King Codex for various One Piece content. Right now, I am mainly focusing on the One Piece card game. So it's just come out in the US. I'm excited to finally start playing with the first set, which is called Romance Dawn. So yeah, stay tuned for that. All right. But next week, we'll be discussing Volume 8, I Won't Die. But I've been Joel, and I've been joined by Sean. And Evan.
I've been Evan. Thanks for listening.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Be sure to bring along all of your hopes and dreams, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Eat the podcast fruit. See ya.
See ya.